Hi, this is Mike Palmer from Mike Palmer Homes. Thank you for visiting our site. I was making this video from our house on the coast of Maine. As you can see, there's the harbor out there. We're at the mouth of the New Meadows River leading into Casco Bay. The tide's kind of low right now. You can see the line where the tide's high, that rock we swim out to at high tide and can walk out to at low tide. But anyway, the reason I'm making this video is this is actually the first carpenter job I ever had. So I'm going to put this on the About Me section of my website so people can see where my influence came from if they're considering hiring me. Anyway, I'm making this video. We love this place. This is kind of a special place for us in the family. Realize what a humble cottage this is compared to the work I do in North Carolina. But it is special because this is where I learned to do carpentry. Actually, this was the first carpenter job I ever had. My parents hired the contractor to build this addition to the family summer home. It's only about a 1,100 square foot house, but at first he did not want me on board. He wasn't high on taking a teenager on, but once he got working with me, him and I really hit it off. And I was so inquisitive and wanted to learn everything, and I had pretty good skills that he took me under my wing and pretty much taught me every aspect of carpentry here, other than HVAC. One of his brothers did the electrical, the other one did the plumbing. Other than that, we did everything together. We had some other staff come on, but it was basically me and him for most of the summer, building the structure. Anyway, one of the things I remember is it was 35 years ago when we did this. We put this cedar shake on, and the cedar shake, it's freshly painted, but it's starting to wear out. And they said, Mike, the cedar shake lasts really well. You'll be an old man before you ever have to deal with it again. So I guess that makes me an old man now, because we're going to have to think about resurfacing. But anyway, every time I see this, if you look right above here, see this course of shingles? That's an inch shorter than the rest of them. That's an error I made when we were putting it up. I measured wrong. I was supposed to measure 5 inches. I measured 4. So what we did is make these shingles wider and worked it out up the bottom of that window so it all comes out. They said nobody will ever see it, but I see it every time. But to my credit, there's one shingle here when we put on this window seat. This one. They tried to cut that about 3 times. I kept making mistakes and couldn't cut it right. And they said, Mike, we give up. Why don't you give it a try? And I nailed it on the first try, so I was awful proud of myself as a kid. Anyway, if any of y'all seen my houses, you know I like window seats. This was the first one we built. This was the influence of it. If you're sitting on the window seat, look out the window. There's your view of the ocean. I don't know if the camera really captures it, but it's really a special place. Anyway, this house, it taught me from the beginning, and every year I seem to learn something new. Actually, every few years we have to cut this hole bigger, so we got a tree growing through the deck. Anyway, this year we had to I put up some PVC up there, some PVC fascia, because it's always wet here and this wood is always rotting. And it gets a little old spending your vacation fixing rotted wood every year, so we're working on replacing a lot of that. But in the back here, we have a moss problem. We have moss growing all over the roof. So, that I've never worked with before did you, is we put a zinc strip. It's a zinc strip of metal right along the ridge line. What happens is the rain hits the zinc, a little bit of water, zinc mixes with the water, and it's supposed to kill the moss. So we'll see how well that did next year. Either zinc or copper is supposed to do the trick. Anyway, this is just a tool shed. That's an original door from the 1940s when we originally built the house. And I'll show you the inside. Show you some of the work we did there. Oh, this is where we tied the old house into the new house, and I was just fascinated that you could do that. That you could tie an old house into a new house. It's actually pretty simple carpentry, but I loved every minute of it. I ate it up when I was a kid. Anyway, inside, again, it's just tongue and groove pine boarding. It's your humble Maine cottage look. But I remember doing all that trim up there. I remember making that exact cut, go around the wire, and the way there's a little bit of unevenness in the boards, which is a little different. Now today we all use white trim, and there's any imperfections, you just caulk it. But anyway, put a monitor heater. We actually used to have the door there. We moved it over here. But this is where I learned about floor joist and blocking and joist hangers and tripling up a beam for a girder. And this is a window seat. The original window seat. Now it's looking a little faded. It is 35 years old. And we only replace things in summer home as, you know, we have time, energy, and money to do it. But my mother's got all kinds of stuffed animals that the grandkids love playing with, and etc. But we've had lots of time crashing here, having conversations here. Here's a dining table that has been host to many a lobster feast. This is 2x4 furniture. Once again, just humble cottage. But there's a view of the ocean right out the front. Kitchen, I remember that. I remember doing all this paneling. And of course I built all sorts of little shelves for cubby holes. Just a humble country kitchen overlooking the ocean. And you don't see many of these anymore, but I've cooked, I don't know how many lobster on here. We've had this stove for over 30 years, and it's coil stove. You don't see many of those around anymore. And of course I'm always building shelves all over the place for storage. Okay, here's our staircase. Just finishing one by pine boarding. Very simple, very humble, but that's where I first learned to do stairs. And there's not much room in these cottages, so we had to get a little creative coming down the stairs, tall people. So there we have our duck and assigned a duck. And I remember building this little half wall. I was very concerned about how it was going to be stable enough, but it's 30 years later and it's fine. Remember one night we got in some beer that we shouldn't have, so we put all the cans inside that wall and just covered it with siding. A long time ago. Anyway, once again, this is where I learned about jacks and headers and how to nail a wall and how to do a clip ceiling. This, we just put a whiteboard and put just the thin pine strips over it. I remember doing all that. I remember slipping with a hammer and making a mark and having to slide the boards over to cover it. Anyway, so that's our cottage in a nutshell. Oh, everything here, all 1x6 tongue and groove boards. No plywood on the wall here. No OSB, new chipboard. That was all the builder would use. And then on the roof, you only use 5/8 inch plywood. But we did that. We installed the roof. We installed every shingle. So I learned every aspect of building on this cottage, and a lot about maintenance. Anyway, one more look at the ocean. That's what we wake up to every morning. We appreciate you coming to our site and watching our video. If you have any questions, please call us on the number below. Thanks. Bye.